Welcome, my friends, to a space where reality is no longer something you chase, but something you awaken to. If you're ready to stop waiting for your life to change and start realizing that everything you desire already exists within you, then you are exactly where you need to be. Before we go deeper, make sure you become a member of Neville Manifestation, because this is not just content, it's a transformation of how you see time, consciousness, and your own power. Before we begin, pause. Don't rush this. Ask yourself something real. Where is your past right now? And where exactly is your future? Can you touch them, find them, prove they exist outside your mind? Or is everything you've ever lived and everything you hope to live happening only here, in this moment? Because if that's true, then what you're waiting for isn't ahead of you. It's already within reach, right now. Good evening, my friends. Let me start with a real question, not something rhetorical. I want you to actually pause and think about it before we go any further. When do you believe you are right now? Most people would answer with a date and time, maybe Tuesday evening, 7:30 p.m., the 25th of March. But look deeper than that. Where is Tuesday? Where is 7:30? Can you point to them anywhere in space? Can you physically locate them, touch them, or hold them? And what about the past? Not your memory of it, but the actual past itself. Can you find it anywhere outside of your awareness in this moment? And the future, not your expectations or imagination of it, but the real future. Can you locate it somewhere out there? You can't, because they don't exist in the way you think they do. They are not places. They are not fixed realities existing independently somewhere outside of you. They are simply mental experiences, images of what was and projections of what might be. And both of them only ever appear in one place, right here in this present moment, the eternal now. What I want to show you tonight is not some abstract philosophy or mystical idea. This is something deeply practical, something you can actually use to transform your life. Because if all time exists right now, if past and future are not separate realities, but just different ways your attention moves within one timeless field, then your desire is not sitting somewhere ahead of you, waiting to arrive. It already exists now. The only question is whether you know how to access it. Let me share something with you. After one of my lectures, a man came up to me. He was clearly frustrated, almost overwhelmed. He told me he had been practicing these ideas for 3 years, visualizing, feeling the wish fulfilled, staying committed, and yet nothing had truly changed in the way that mattered to him. He asked me, if time isn't real, then why is it taking so long? I immediately saw the problem. It wasn't that he was doing the techniques wrong. The issue was deeper. It was how he understood what he was doing. He believed his desire existed somewhere in the future, and that his job was to bring it closer, to pull it into the present through effort and time. From that perspective, 3 years felt like a long wait, because he was waiting. He was reaching forward, trying to grab something he believed wasn't here yet. So I told him, you're not trying to bring something from the future into your present. You're trying to become aware of something that already exists right now. Your desire isn't something that will happen one day, it has already happened. It exists in the dimension of consciousness that is beyond time. Your role is not to create it, but to recognize it. He looked at me confused, so I explained it differently. Tonight, don't imagine your desire as something that might happen. Instead, remember it as if it already has. Not as hope, not as possibility, but as a fact, like a memory. He said, how can I remember something that hasn't happened? And I answered, because in the realm where everything is created, in consciousness, it already has. He went home and practiced exactly that. He stopped trying to push his desire into the future and instead began experiencing it as something already completed. Not imagining forward, but remembering backward. 6 weeks later, the very thing he had been trying to manifest for 3 years showed up in his life. But what he said next was even more important. He told me, it didn't feel like something new came into my life. It felt like something I already knew would happen, like a memory that finally became visible. And that's exactly what it is. Because in the timeless reality of consciousness, it had always been done. Now let's understand this clearly, because clarity here changes everything. Most people experience time like a straight line, a flow moving from past to present to future. It feels like you're being carried along by it, whether you want to or not. The past is gone, the future hasn't arrived, and the present keeps slipping away before you can hold on to it. And yes, this experience feels real. You age, clocks move, events happen in sequence. I'm not denying that. But what I'm asking you to see is this. The way you experience time is not the same as what time actually is. Because in truth, everything exists now. The past exists as memory, and the future exists as imagination. But both of those are happening in this moment. Right now is the only place anything ever appears. So if your desire exists, it must exist now. Not later, not someday, now. And the shift you need to make is simple but powerful. Stop trying to get to it. Stop trying to make it happen. Instead, begin to relate to it as something that has already occurred. Feel it as familiar. Think of it as known. Let it exist in you the same way a memory does. Certain, complete, unquestioned. Because the moment you stop chasing and start remembering, everything changes. You're no longer waiting, you're recognizing. And that is the moment when what seemed distant becomes present. What you experience as order and sequence in life is real to your senses. But it is not the true nature of time itself. Think of it like a film reel. Every single frame, whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end, already exists on that reel at the same time. Frame 1, frame 500, and frame 2000 are all there together, complete and present. But when you watch the movie, you don't see it that way. You experience it frame by frame. It feels like movement. It feels like things are unfolding step by step. The story seems to be happening in real time, moving from cause to effect. Yet in reality, the entire story was finished long before you ever pressed play. Nothing is being created as you watch it. You're simply becoming aware of what already exists. Your life works in the same way. Every moment you've lived, and every moment you will live, already exists within the vast field of consciousness. Just like the frames of that film, they are all present at once. What you call the present moment is simply the point your awareness is focused on right now. It's the frame you're lighting up with your attention. But here's the key. Other frames are not missing. They're not waiting to be made. They already exist, including the ones where your desire is fulfilled. What you want is not sitting somewhere in the future. It exists now, just in a part of reality you're not currently focused on. So the process is not about waiting for time to pass. It's about shifting your attention. Let me share a story that makes this clearer. A woman came to me after living for 15 years with a husband who struggled with alcoholism. She wasn't even asking if things could improve anymore. She had moved beyond hope. Her question was whether she could survive the situation without losing herself, without leaving the man she once loved, or destroying herself by staying. I told her something that sounded almost too simple, maybe even harsh at first. I said, "You're asking what can change over time, but the real question is, can you move your awareness to the version of your husband that already exists right now? The version who is sober, present, loving, and fully there for you." She looked at me like I didn't understand her situation at all. So I explained further. Right now, in this very moment, there is a version of your husband who has never had a drinking problem. There is a version of your marriage that is peaceful, connected, and full of love. These are not future possibilities. They are present realities that exist in consciousness beyond linear time. She responded, "But that never happened." I said, "It exists now, in the deeper level of reality where all possibilities are real at once. And when you begin to relate to it as something real, like a memory instead of a wish, you shift your awareness to that version of life." She didn't fully believe it, but she was desperate enough to try. Every night, she began to live in the feeling of that loving, stable relationship, not imagining it as something that might happen someday, but experiencing it as something that already was. She recalled conversations that had never occurred in physical reality, felt the warmth of a connection that hadn't yet shown up in her outer world, and allowed herself to rest in that state as if it were already true. At first, nothing changed outside, but something changed inside her. The way she spoke, the way she reacted, the energy she carried into every interaction, it all shifted. She stopped responding to the version of her husband defined by the problem. Instead, she began responding to the version she knew in her awareness. She spoke to him differently. She treated him with a level of respect and care that came from seeing who he truly was beneath the pattern. He felt it. Within 3 months, his drinking began to decrease. Within 6 months, he had stopped completely. He became, in his physical behavior, the same man she had been experiencing internally all along. She didn't force a change. She didn't fix him. She simply aligned herself with a version of reality that already existed and allowed it to express through her life. Now let me tell you about another man. He came to me carrying something much heavier, years of regret. He had been separated from his father for 2 decades before his father passed away. They never reconciled. No final conversation, no closure, no healing. And that absence stayed with him. The kind of grief that comes from knowing there are words that will never be spoken, moments that will never be shared. He told me, "The past is over. There's nothing I can do about it." I said, "The past exists right now in consciousness, just as alive as this moment. Your father is not gone in that dimension. Your relationship is not frozen. Healing is still possible, not in the future, but now." He didn't understand at first, but he was willing to try. Instead of replaying the painful memories he had always held on to, he began to enter a different version of those moments. Not changing history in the physical sense, but experiencing a deeper truth within consciousness. He imagined the conversation they never had, but he didn't treat it as imagination. He experienced it as something real, something that existed beyond time. In that space, he spoke honestly, with love instead of anger. And in that same space, his father responded with warmth, understanding, and care. They met as two men who finally saw each other clearly. He returned to these experiences every night, fully immersing himself in them. Over time, something unexpected happened. His real memories began to shift. Moments he had always interpreted as rejection or indifference started to reveal something else. Hidden care, unspoken love, things he had never been able to see before. Then one day, months later, he found letters. Old letters his father had written but never sent. And in those letters were the same feelings, the same words, the same love he had experienced in his inner world. He hadn't created something false. He had uncovered something true that was always there. This is how consciousness moves beyond time. Not by rewriting events, but by revealing a deeper layer of reality that was always present. Now let me make this practical for you, because I know at this point you're asking, how do I actually apply this? There are three ways to begin living from this understanding. First, change how you think about your desires. Most people think in terms of time. They say, "I hope this happens," or "I wish things were different," or "I'm afraid of what might come." Every one of those statements assumes the thing you want is not here yet. But when you shift into what I call eternal thinking, your language changes. Instead of hoping, you recognize. You begin to think, "This already exists. This is already real in the deeper level of consciousness." You're not trying to convince yourself. You're acknowledging something you understand to be true beyond appearances. And that shift, from hoping to knowing, changes everything. Because the state you live in determines the reality you experience. When you stop looking at your desire as something distant and start relating to it as something already present, you move out of waiting and into alignment. And that's where the real change begins. Everything begins with where you create from. The next piece is learning to move beyond a fixed sense of time. Instead of feeling stuck in the single timeline your current situation seems to show you, you train yourself to shift your attention across different possibilities. When your body looks unwell, you don't just imagine being healthy as something far away. You connect to the state of health as if it already exists, because in a deeper sense, it does. When your finances seem lacking, you don't treat abundance like a distant dream. You recognize that there is already a version of reality where ease and stability are true. When a relationship feels tense, you don't dwell on the conflict. You choose to focus on the version where harmony already exists. With practice, you become someone who isn't limited to one version of reality. You learn to guide your attention the way a musician moves through music, fully present in each moment, yet free to choose where to rest your focus. Then comes something even more powerful, what could be called eternal memory. This is not just remembering events from the past in a linear way. It's remembering what exists beyond time. You begin to hold the memory of your wish fulfilled, the healed body, the restored relationship, the abundant life, as if it has already happened. These memories carry the same weight as any other memory, because all memories happen now, in the present moment of awareness. The idea that something belongs to the past is simply how the mind organizes things. From a deeper perspective, remembering your childhood and remembering your fulfilled desire are both happening right now in consciousness. And your subconscious doesn't sort memories by when they occurred. It doesn't label them as real or imagined based on time. It simply receives them and acts on them. So when you consistently return to the feeling that your desire is already fulfilled, your subconscious accepts it as truth and begins shaping your experience around that truth. You might wonder if living this way means ignoring real life. It doesn't. You still show up for your responsibilities. You go to work, pay your bills, keep your commitments. But the difference is where you're operating from internally. Instead of acting from stress, fear, or pressure about time, you act from a steady confidence. You understand that solutions already exist, that the reality you want is not something you have to chase, it's something already available. From that place, your actions improve. Your decisions become clearer. You start noticing opportunities that you would have missed before. Your presence changes, and that changes how you interact with everything around you. You actually become more effective in everyday life because you're no longer weighed down by anxiety about time. This isn't avoidance, it's using your awareness in the way it was meant to be used. There was once a young man who wanted to become a doctor, but everything in his external world said it wouldn't happen. His grades weren't strong enough, his test scores didn't stand out, every school rejected him. From a logical, linear perspective, the path seemed closed. He was encouraged to stop thinking only in terms of time and start thinking from a deeper level, to recognize that there already exists a moment where he receives an acceptance letter, a moment where he takes the oath, a moment where he helps his first patient. Instead of treating those moments as something to wait for, he began living from them, not pretending or acting, but genuinely identifying with that version of himself. He started thinking, moving, and showing up as someone who already was a doctor at his core. Eventually, the outer world reflected that shift. He did become a doctor, not because he forced circumstances to change through struggle, but because he stopped waiting for time to deliver what he had already accepted as true. So here's the idea to carry with you. What you desire is not sitting somewhere in the future. It already exists. The moment you felt the desire, its fulfillment was present as well. They are not separated by time. They are only separated by where you place your attention. You've been reaching forward, thinking what you want is ahead of you. But it isn't ahead. It's here, accessible now. Not through effort or waiting, but through shifting your awareness. Choose the version of reality you want to live in. Allow yourself to remember it as already real. Let it feel natural, obvious, already done. And then notice how your external world begins to align with that inner certainty. Time rearranges itself to match what you've accepted as true. You are not just moving through time, you are awareness itself, timeless, present, and always choosing where to focus. Direct that focus carefully. Decide which moments you bring to life. And remember, everything you've ever wanted exists now. It's not waiting somewhere ahead. It's here, always here. And so, when you truly understand what has been shared tonight, everything changes at its core. Not because the world outside instantly transforms, but because you finally realize that you were never moving through time the way you believed you were. You were never chasing a future or escaping a past. You were always standing in the only place reality has ever existed, the eternal now. Your struggles, your delays, your waiting, they were not caused by time itself, but by the assumption that what you desire is somewhere else, somewhere ahead, somewhere not yet here. But the truth is far more powerful than that. Every version of your life already exists. Every healed body, every fulfilled dream, every loving relationship, every moment of abundance. It is all present now, complete and available, waiting not to be created, but to be recognized. And the shift is simple, yet profound. You stop trying to make things happen, and you begin remembering them as already done. You stop reaching forward, and you start returning inward. You move your attention deliberately, choosing not the reality that appears most obvious, but the one that is most aligned with your truth. And as you do this, consistently, calmly, without force, your subconscious accepts it, organizes around it, and reflects it back into your lived experience. You still walk through your days, fulfill your responsibilities, and engage with the world. But now you do it from a different center, not from fear, lack, or urgency, but from quiet certainty. You become like the observer of the film, who finally understands that the ending is already written, and instead of anxiously waiting to see what happens, you begin to embody the version of yourself who has already arrived. This is not denial of reality, it is mastery of it. Because reality at its deepest level is not fixed, it responds to where you place your awareness. And when you learn to hold your fulfilled desire as a living memory, as something real and present within you, the world has no choice but to rearrange itself around that truth. So the final realization is this: you are not bound by time, you are not limited by circumstances, and you are not separate from what you seek. You are the awareness, moving through an already complete creation, and your power lies in choosing which part of that creation you give your attention to. The moment you truly live from that understanding, the waiting ends, and the life you once hoped for begins to reveal itself as something that was never missing at all.